In this video, I'm going to do a deep dive of the end-of-month financial results for Archi-Demo Co for June 2025. We finished up the year with a big month, stronger than expected, off the back of a FISO study that we got at the last minute from one of our marketing targets. Overall, we finished up the year 75,000 net profit, better than the original budget. So sit back, grab a cuppa, enjoy the video as I pull together all the information and overlay the profit metrics framework so we can see what our next move is. The profit metrics framework provides a structured and strategic overlay so you don't miss anything when you're trying to figure out what's going on with the business. It enables us to answer three very important questions. Are we on track to meet our target? If not, why aren't things going to plan? And where are things heading in the future? But before we can get to that point, before we can even start doing our analysis, there is a bunch of things that we need to check, bunch of work that needs to be done in the background before we can be satisfied that our results have accounting integrity and are correct. That's important because you'll never be able to work out if you're on track if you don't know where you are now. And nothing derails a board meeting quicker than reports you can't rely on. The first step is to make sure we're happy that the balance sheet is bulletproof. And after that, there's a bunch of reports we can go through to understand the relative performance in the P&L. Finally, once we're comfortable with the actual results, we want to have a good look at our forecast to give us comfort that we're going to hit our sales target, have the right amount of people to deliver the work, and we're not going to run out of cash. Once all this work's done, we'll be in a great position to have an insightful strategic discussion in the boardroom about our future goals and decide what we're going to do to keep things on track. Without having all this information and having confidence that it's right, you simply can't have these discussions. Okay, let's get into it. So as usual, the first thing that we need to do is make sure that the balance sheet's bulletproof before we can be confident using any of the numbers that we're looking at in the P&L or on our KPI reports. The idea is that we want to go through line by line and prove up or substantiate every single balance here and ultimately tie things back to third-party substantiation. There's a couple of areas that are a little bit different, things like trade debtors and the bank. So trade debtors, you can see there, we're looking for the aged receivables there, the uncollectible stuff that we might have to write off. The bank account, again, we check the bank recs in there. We've got fixed assets. We'll check off the written down value and the year-to-date depreciation has been booked correctly to the P&L. And then for the others like prepayments, we've got in here our software licensing, our subscriptions, our PI insurance and everything. We're just amortizing them down and there's not much left there. There's sort of one payment each there as we go through our renewals next month. Director loans, as we've done fixed assets, payroll, on costs, superannuation, PAYG tax, provision for bonus, tax provision year to date, less last month's year to date, our other accruals, staff leave accrual, GST, and our bank loan. And finally, the last thing that we want to work our way through is the time and billing reports and confirm that this WIP figure in the balance sheet, the work in progress, is actually right. So we can segue across into our job costing reports that are backed up by the timesheets. Overall, the WIP's gone up by 7.8k this month. That's spread across all of these jobs. Let's assume for this purpose that all of those projects reviews have been done. All of the cost complete calculations stack up, and this is what it is. I'll be doing a separate deep dive video on 52 Smith Street, but for these purposes, we're going to assume that all those reviews have been done already. And now that we're satisfied that the EVA calculations stack up, we know then that the WIP figure stacks up. And it's the difference between what we've earned and what we've invoiced. Once we're happy with the balance sheet, we can now rely on all of the other things like the P&L. Now, I've said this every month because it's important to understand. It's really easy to fly off on tangents and fly down rabbit holes chasing after small things because that's what people are comfortable with. But before we can immerse ourselves in all of that detail, we really need to swoop over at a high level first, or summary level. And to make it a bit easier, I've color-coded things so that the pink is the actual. You'll see that on the tabs and on the column headings. Green's forecast, orange is budget, and purple is the revised budget. So the first of those summary level reports that deals with where we are now is the actual versus budget month and year-to-date summaries. And again, we don't want to get bogged down in here. We're trying to get an idea of what's happened. So we finished up the month a little bit better, 11K, and that's probably largely due to the variance there on the overheads. We haven't spent as much money as we thought. We must have delayed some of that expenditure. But year to date, we've finished up 75,000 profit-wise better off, 41,000 less than our original revenue budget, and we're a full FTE in terms of cost, almost less in our direct costs. So all those things add up, mean that we finished the year about 75 grand better off net profit than we first thought. That's the full year summary. You can see we started there at the 551. Last month we thought we were going to be the 603, and we've actually come in at the 627. And we start to understand the context of these results a lot better when we look at them in terms of the KPIs. These show us the trends within the operations, and the big ones, utilisation for the month at 69.9 and year to date 67.2. Multipliers 2.88, which is higher, 2.73 year to date, slightly lower. And revenue per person is about 250 ahead. You can see that the overheads have come in below. Debtor days are a little bit high for June. And we need to do something about this work in progress in next year's budget. So we really just want to get a perspective on how we're going against our plan, and if there's any obvious problems and where they are. The next thing we can do is we dive deeper into those variances and look at the detail, try and determine why things are different and what impact they'll have on our future forecasts. And the first of those detail level reports is the actual versus budget month and year to date detail. So we can go through here line by line. We can go through accounting fees, figure out who we spent the money on, who we plan to do it, what the differences are. We do this for everything. Go through, try and work out how we're travelling. Are they timing differences? Are they permanent differences? And, does that have an impact on our rest of year, which for June we don't have? All of this stuff will be going to next year's forecast. We know because our accounts now have accounting integrity, we can rely on our cash flow forecast. It's the third part of the three-way forecast. We finished up the year with 1.2 million. We've got $1 million on deposit, so we've still got some headroom there in our operating cash. The next thing we need to do is segue across and do a comparison of our capacity forecast versus the sales pipeline forecast. Now, throughout the year, we've done this to try and figure out how we're going to finish up the year, but the year's been finished. The focus of the forecast now, because we've been looking 12 months ahead all the time, we've effectively got our next year's budget already prepared. Now, we haven't set a budget for next year, and we would want to go through this sales pipeline and firm things up. But this is the best way that I know of to balance your head count with what the work that you've got on. So now that we've done all that work and we've done all of our review, we're ready to button this up and send this out to the directors in readiness for the next board meeting.
So if you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe button, tell your friends about it. There's plenty more updates coming for Archi-Demo Co in the future. And if you'd like any more information, jump on our website, www.custodianbackoffice.com, and there you'll find plenty of resources that'll help you get started with better financial management in your architecture practice. I'm David Dillon from Custodian Back Office. Thanks very much for watching.